Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. Let's get into our pre-market analysis here. First things first, I do want to go back to yesterday and take a look at what happened here. We didn't make any trades. In fact, I told everybody that if we were trading between 42.85, you can see our minor eye level here, and basically the high of yesterday, but maybe more so 4,300. This 15-point area was not a place I wanted to be putting risk on. And so let's take a look here. Out of the open, we did get a little bullish signal on the market breadth, and we got a pop. But again, it was within this zone. So all throughout this area, we did not trade. And there were some nice holds above the holy orange power level, holds below it. Nice hold. There was just a nice confluence here of three major things: the holy orange power level, VWAP, and the 200. So there was a lot of back and forth action, kind of building out a nice market profile, probably right in this pocket. And so we trade till about 7:30 here, and as you can see by 7:30, nothing had really broken out. Now there are some things to mention, such as the fact that this little shaded region was our first expected support level. Did get a bounce out of it just before the open. It did bounce just in front of it here about a half hour into the open. And then once the market did trek a little bit lower, came up and then used it as resistance, but then there was no follow through. Then they popped back up, pulled back and held the minor level, held VWAP and pulled back and then held that area for the breakout to the upside. So the levels all still working really nicely. You can see a nice bounce off 42.85 in a half hour into the session, and then a nice bounce right off of our shaded region to break out to the upside, and a nice hold there from VWAP. So still lots of respect despite it being pretty choppy. And then once it broke out, we weren't here to trade. So once it broke out, you can see we came up into 06, pulled back, and then went ahead and broke on through there. In fact, they did just do a little micro pullback right to 06 to the tick, and then from there continued to break out to the upside. They could not get through the 200 moving average here, and then continued to trek higher, and then came right into our major level and got a little peak above and failed. So again, just beautiful respect of the levels. And then we came down, and I think this was probably one of the sexiest things to happen, is we pulled back and came right into the holy orange power level and broke it by 2 ticks, and then tried to break out to the upside again at the end of the day. So beautiful hold, beautiful example of why we have the holy orange power level on our charts. And then from there you can see little trouble at VWAP, and then broke out and tried to hold above this major level 43.06 on multiple tests and just kind of petered out. Now coming into the overnight session, you can see that the bears have remained in control, and they have pushed us even lower here, getting down through yesterday's low here at 42.7875, and that's where we find ourselves this morning. Try to disregard these colors. I'm playing with a proprietary indicator, and in fact I might as well just mention here, since we got started a little early, just take a look at the open. Like literally the second the market opened here, within a few moments we got a bullish signal on that proprietary indicator, and you probably could have grabbed a nice 10-point bounce, a little bit more than 10-point bounce out of the open if you just played the signal itself. Then we got a bearish signal, which looked like we would hold VWAP, but again, it was very sideways. Got a nice bullish signal here on a stronger proprietary internal signal there that led to this push right to VWAP. And when we got to VWAP, we got a bearish signal that led to the pullback. And then up here you can see some bearish signals when we came into our major eye level, and so there was a pullback, but just not enough strength to continue going. And then the opposite signal printed, and we continued pushing. Again, another grouping of bearish signals, and we got a pullback. And then when the market tested the 200 here, we got a whole bunch of strong bullish signals. That final signal printing just about 10 a.m. And there you go, there's the rip higher. And then as the market started pushing into our major level at 43.24 half, we started to just get all this bearish stuff. So if we were here in the market live and we knew we were getting up to a major area and all these bearish things started to print, another one printed, another one printed, and we're coming right into this area, this would have been a good clue that this area might not be might hold and push the market back down. And sure enough, it wasn't clean. It wasn't a nice, beautiful hold to the tick, but they peaked above, like I said. And then right here, I believe right at 11:20, we got a strong market internal bearish signal. And then from there, it ducked below 24, and then that was it. Came all the way back down. Now, here's the sexy part. When we came down to test the orange power level, we got a nice bullish market internal signal, and then a higher time frame bullish market internal signal, and from there got this rip all the way back up to the end of the day. And then at the end of the day, all of the signals started to print negative, and sure enough, we came up to this area and pulled back. So I think there's a lot to what I'm working on right now that could be giving us some really incredible, not necessarily entries, but regions in the market where we expect to see a turn. And from there, if you can just pinpoint an entry, you could be getting in on moves that go 10, 20, 50, 100 points. So let's get into this morning now. Enough about that stuff. I'm sure as the weeks progress here, it's only going to get better with that signal. So let's go ahead into this morning and see what we want to deal with. We'll go up to the daily here and look at how things closed yesterday. And a pretty ambivalent looking bar did close, green or blue in my schematic here, but not necessarily any type of bearish signal there. Everything looks hunky-dory from an RVI divergence perspective. And then obviously you can see now on the new candle we are getting this pullback in the overnight session that I just mentioned, pushing down almost to test the lows. That must be Monday there. So let's go ahead and jump down to this 4-hour and see if the 4-hour has any other interesting signals to be aware of coming into the open. And basically what we have are two very strong bearish signals from the high of yesterday and I believe the high of the overnight session. So two strong bearish signals. We have gotten a decent pullback so far, and I'm noticing as we pull back we might be starting to get a potential bullish divergence here. Of course, what we would want to see is the market to hold above that low at 42.49 there from, I guess that's basically Monday's low. So if we don't break Monday's low, we might actually have a 4-hour bullish signal as well. This is one of those things where I'm not telling you there's a signal, there's no signal there. It's something I want to be aware of and come back and look to see how this looks when this closes a half hour after the open, and then I guess going into that next candle to see if the pattern is really there. So I'm not telling you there's any bullish signal right now on the 4-hour chart, but there's a potential that over the course of the next hour, hour and a half, that could form, and we want to be aware of that because 4-hour signals, just like the daily and the 1 hour, are very powerful signals to be aware of on an intraday time frame. So right now on the 4-hour, just to wrap that up, we do have some strong bearish signals from the overnight high and the high of yesterday, and we are getting the pullback. So on the 60-minute, let's take a look at all the levels that could potentially be trouble this morning for the bulls and the bears. So let's look at things. We don't really have, and actually on the 60-minute we did get a bullish divergence from the overnight low so far. So technically the 4-hour and the 1 hour, if this 4-hour closes the way it looks, they would get that alignment. But right now the hourly definitely has a signal from the low of the overnight session. And let's see, I don't think there's anything else from a signals perspective to mention here. So no strong alignment. I guess after everything I've said, just to kind of put things together, we don't necessarily have the strongest alignment of signals one way or the other this morning. So what does that tell us? Well, we don't have much of a bias. We're just going to take things as they come. We are starting to get a deeper pullback. Maybe we'll have a correction here Or maybe, just like every day for the last few weeks or many days, maybe this is just the pullback to load up on the longs for the breakout to higher highs. You see, it's just every morning, essentially, we do get some type of trouble, pulls back, and then it pops again. So, hey, whatever happens, happens. We don't really know. So we're just going to evolve and or work with the market and go in the direction it's going. So this morning here, if the bulls do regain strength, and that could mean that the market still comes down lower before they get that strength to break out. But what I want to talk about here is if the bulls do attempt to push higher this morning, first things first, obviously the low of yesterday needs to be broken, and then 42.85, which does line up. Remember, this whole little area that I shaded in yesterday, basically 85 down to what, 82, that whole little area there, you never know if there's going to be trouble up in there. I'm not going to leave that shaded, but just be aware that that pocket right in that area is a very strong support and a very strong resistance area. So if we come up just in front of 85 and into 85, that could be a trouble spot. And then there's one other level here that I failed to mark here before I started, and that is this low from this 1 hour candle at 91.5. So we'll put that up there as a swing low, swing high, 42.91.5. Just to be aware of as we push into that major support. Let's do template. We'll do a swing high, swing low. So that would be also an interesting level if they do end up chugging through the first two trouble zones. Now here's the thing. Was this something I drew last night? Must have been. Okay. So last night I drew in this retracement as a potential support. They did bounce right into it and push into the OPL and fail in the overnight session. But I'm going to get rid of that because that's no longer relevant from that perspective. And give me just 1 second to take a look at some stuff here. Yeah, so the 38 is essentially that swing low I just marked. The 50 brings us right to the OPL, so I don't feel a need to keep that retracement up there. And the magenta line going into 06 is basically the 61.8 retrace of this sell-off so far. So assuming we don't break the overnight low, all the levels up here line up pretty nicely with the general retracement schematics. So we've got that stuff lined up there. So let's look at this. Sorry, this is I feel like this almost is a little long-winded here. But essentially, if the bulls push through the previous daily low, through 85 to about 83, that little pocket, they can get through that major swing and then get through all the garbage in here. Remember, we had a huge chop block right here that we didn't want to trade in yesterday between 85 and 4,300. Well, there's a nice chop block all throughout here as well. Essentially, the magenta line up to about 43.13, so a little 10-point pocket with a lot of chop. Well, there happens to also be a lot of levels right in that area. So if we can get through that area, so let's take a look. We can get up through this stuff, and we can push through the close of yesterday, the major eye level, the magenta 50% line, and our holy orange power level. Obviously, the next major resistance is going to be the test of the high of yesterday, and if the bulls are going to do what they have been doing pretty often here for the last few weeks, they're going to pull back and go ahead and break out to the upside. If that happens, what do we have? Everything we've been talking about above. So just like 24.5 was resistance yesterday, just like 43.06 was resistance the day before that, and maybe not the sexiest hold there, but basically 42.85, and just like 42.56 half were general major resistance levels. That could very well be the same situation up here at 48. Remember, these little pushes, these little inches higher and then breaks at very close areas, that's what's been happening. So even though these levels are all close together, and even here 48 to 61 is close, it won't be surprising to see those pushes to these levels, major failures, inching up just a little bit further, major failure, that kind of stuff. So do not ignore all the major and minor eye levels we have above us and the major retracement at 43.58. Those could be major resistance points for the bulls as they try to break out even further. All right, so and then on the other side of things, the only new levels that I've added to the chart that you didn't have on the chart yesterday or the day before that are essentially the major retracement back down. So I've got a retracement here back from the double bottom lows at 41.13 all the way up to the high we made yesterday. And if you zoom out, you can kind of see that this is one of the major new impulse legs back up. So that would be 42.45 half, the 38 retracement, 42.20 quarter, the 50% retracement, and then 41.95, the 61.8 retracement. And if you look at the 50%, it's basically our minor eye level 21 quarter, which I just updated. So that's a new minor eye level. It used to be one of our major retracement resistance areas. It's now a minor level, 42.21 quarter. So that's very close. And then the 61.8 is basically right into our minor level at 41.02. So be aware of those major retracements on the way down. And outside of the major retracements that I just talked about, every other level on the chart is the same as it was yesterday and the day before that. So there's really no need to sit here and list all these levels out. Just be aware that each one very well could act as a support level. And right now we're pushing down into, see if I can zoom this up so you can see it clearer. We're pushing down into these two little potential support levels, 42.60 half and 42.63 half. So probably what I should do is just highlight this whole region. It's only a little 2-3 point region here, potential support right in there, and then it's right down to the major eye level and the major retracement down here at 45 if they break lower. And then again, it's just one by one all the way down. We don't know what level is going to hold, but we do have other things that we look at that will give us some clues that when we push into a level, there's a good potential it could hold. So we'll work with that. And I think that basically wraps things up for this morning. Let me just kind of put it all together because it was a little bit long-winded. We don't have a major confluence this morning giving us kind of a little bit of an edge or a bias in a specific direction. Some mornings it really lines up and it works out perfect, but this morning it's not there. So we're going to have to take this wherever they take it and then target these areas up above and below depending on which direction they go. So that's basically it for the pre-market here. And again, all these levels are working out very, very magically. So do not ignore any of the levels that we work with. I think that basically wraps it up for this morning. So enjoy, have a great morning, and obviously we'll be back tomorrow. So we'll see you then.